The Batman who laughs is an alternate version of the Batman we know. A version of Earth minus 22, which we can consider as one of the most dangerous in the entire multiverse. This is because the Batman who laughs is what happens when you combine the orderly mind and training of Batman with the lack of morality of the Joker. A combination that, according to Joker, unleashes all the potential of Bruce Wayne, resulting in a Batman that cannot be defeated. But in addition to this, did you know that the Batman who laughs represents very well a psychological theory of Sigmund Freud? A theory that talks about a self-destructive desire that we humans have. That's why in this video, we are going to analyze the origin and stories of the Batman who laughs. To understand how this character relates to the so-called Thanatos drive or death drive. Earth minus 22 is a place where Joker has unleashed complete hell. In Gotham City, carrying out one of the most sinister plans we've ever seen in comic book history. His plan was to force Batman to kill him so he could infect him with a toxin that Joker had hidden inside his own body. To do this, Joker had a plan to push Batman to the brink of despair. First, he eliminated most of the villains in Gotham City and submerged Commissioner Jim Gordon in acid. Then he ordered his henchmen to gather several families from the city. Joker's intention was to kill the parents in front of their children and in front of Batman, thus recreating the scene in which Bruce Wayne lost his parents several years ago. The fact of seeing the worst day of his life being repeated over and over again in front of his eyes. It was too much even for Bruce Wayne, who in a fit of desperation freed himself from his physical and moral restraints, brutally beat Joker, and finally broke his neck. This was part of his plan. After his death, he released a toxin that infected Batman and reconfigured his brain in such a way that now both their personalities were mixed. Joker's plan had succeeded in combining the trauma of both characters to create a villain from which there can be no salvation. Something our Batman called a super predator, a character who has no natural enemies, a Joker without a Batman to oppose him. This is when we have to talk about the theory of psychologist Sigmund Freud. Since the actions of the Batman who laughs, his plans and goals are directly related to something Freud called Thanatos drive or death drive. According to his theory, human beings have something called life drive, which is an impulse or the motivation we have to stay alive. This drive is what motivates us to eat, exercise, and basically, it drives us to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Something quite human. If we take Batman as an example, we can see his life drive in action. Every time he creates bonds of trust or friendship with the Justice League or with members of the Bat family. However, Freud noticed in his patients that there are certain behaviors that we have that seem to go against this principle of avoiding pain. Actions that we know are going to harm us, but we do anyway, like smoking, drinking alcohol, and driving, or keeping an ex-girlfriend who broke our heart on Facebook, and we know it's not going to do us any good to find out about her life. Freud called these drives that seem to act against us death drives. Something we see exemplified from the first Batman comic, Who Laughs, already when Batman gets infected with the Joker's toxin. His transformation was gradual, not immediate, which gave Bruce a few days to analyze his new situation and formulate plans that could have stopped him before ending his world. However, he didn't. This may be because Bruce was confident that he could find an antidote to Joker's toxin before it was too late. But what? Isn't Batman a person who has a plan for everything? Shouldn't he also have prepared for the possibility that he wouldn't find a cure in time? What's happening here is that the Joker's toxin seems to act in such a way that it makes Bruce's death drives much stronger than his life drives. In this way, as the toxin was infecting Bruce's mind, he was becoming more and more comfortable with the idea of giving up and letting himself be taken over by the Joker's mind. To such an extent that his last act before fully becoming the laughing Batman was to gather the Bat family in his cave. in order to finish them all off before they could pose a threat, something he easily achieves by ambushing them. This indicates that there was a part inside Bruce Wayne that unconsciously thinks that members of his family are a threat, and that Batman would be much more free without them. A self-destructive thought that we all possess at some level, and that the Joker's toxin released. However, this comic provides additional examples of the Thanatos drive, because when the Batman Who Laughs attacks the Justice League, something similar happens. When the Batman Who Laughs defeats the League of this universe, he tells Superman that he now knows why he was so insistent on keeping so many weapons of mass destruction in the trophy room. According to him, the entire League always insisted that these weapons confiscated from the supervillains should be destroyed. But for some reason, Batman always opposed and wanted to keep them, justifying himself, saying it was to analyze and study them. However, in this comic, the Batman Who Laughs reveals to Superman that he now realizes his intention was always to use these weapons. And now, thanks to the toxin, Joker can see it clearly. Here, as we can see, this is another example where the Batman Who Laughs is satisfying Batman's unconscious desires that he already had before, but repressed. So do we all have that Thanatos drive? According to Freud, yes, but we also have a life drive that counteracts it. The interesting thing is why we have this death drive. According to this theory, we unconsciously think that living is stressful. And the Thanatos drive is the one that seeks to return us to a time when we had no worries, let's say, to a non-existence. And interestingly, this seems to be the central theme of the first miniseries of The Laughing Batman, a story that takes place after the events of the Metal comic. Sometime after our Batman and Joker joined forces to defeat him, in this miniseries, the Laughing Batman reappears in Gotham City, and he plans to infect all its inhabitants with a toxin that would turn them into a Jokerized version of themselves. According to him, when this happens, each of the inhabitants will tear the city apart, trying to satisfy their darkest desires, bringing up again the theme of impulses. Even though our Batman has prepared for the imminent arrival of the Batman Who Laughs, he acknowledges that he cannot understand his adversary's plan, as he cannot quite understand how his mind works. And that's why he asks Joker for help, so that they can once again defeat this corrupt Batman. Joker, for his part, decides that the best way to help Batman is by infecting him with the toxin, which would turn him into the Batman Who Laughs, as this way he would be able to understand his adversary's chaotic plans. In a way, according to Joker, the only way Batman can defeat the Batman Who Laughs is by seeing the world as he does. With that spike visor that makes him perceive people's worst desires, that is, their death impulses. And even though it's hard for us to believe, Joker confesses that he really doesn't want to kill Batman, nor does he want to die. What he wants is for both of them to be eternally in this struggle of good against evil that amuses him so much. However, at the end of the story, it is revealed to us that all of this has always been part of the plan of the Laughing Batman. That his real goal was for our Batman to kill him and take his place. This is precisely the goal of our death drive, to return us to a stage of non-existence. And if you notice, the Batman Who Laughs designed an entire plan to cease to exist. However, it should also be clarified that even in these death drives, there is an inherent life drive. The Batman Who Laughs did not cease to exist, and now his plan was for someone to continue his legacy. In a way, his plan also involved surviving, which speaks to us of a life drive. In fact, when the Joker from Earth 22 infects that Batman and unleashes hell in Gotham City, he does it only because he is about to die, poisoned by the same chemicals that gave him his appearance. Knowing his impending death, Joker chose to play the biggest joke of all, a joke in which his greatest rival, that is Batman, continued his legacy. Ironically, it was the life drive that led Joker to infect Batman, as he planned to continue living through his adversary. The Batman Who Laughs is one of the most popular villains in recent years. He is a character that clicked with comic fans from his first appearance. Partly due to his appearance and partly because seeing a character who has Batman's abilities and Joker's morality. He could well be the Justice League's worst nightmare. However, it is by no means a visually attractive and narratively empty character. He is a villain who was constructed in such a way that he does represent nightmares and whose goal is always to bring out the darkest and most evil desires of each person. The most dangerous Batman in the multiverse? In fact, so much so that our Batman has never defeated him by himself. Because the Batman who laughs has plans that counteract every plan our Batman is capable of imagining. He is the true embodiment of the phrase Batman always wins because he is Batman. If you like this video about the Batman who laughs, I'm going to recommend these other videos where I analyze the philosophy behind some other villains like Thanos or Lex Luthor. If you've made it this far into the video, you're sure to like them. I am Gio, the Geek Monitor, and I invite you to keep looking beyond the obvious by subscribing to my channel.